Welcome back for reading today. So we're going to go through what you're going to be doing as reading. We have a phonics activity to do today, as well as a reading mini lesson. Today what we're going to focus on is acquiring, that's a fancy word for getting, a large core of high frequency words. And so frequency words are those words that you've probably seen a list of before. I know third grade you started them, and they're just common words that you should know. Back, bad, bail, be. And then we get into older grade level words like beautiful, became, my favorite word because, and become. So as we go through these high frequency words, you should have been learning and practicing them from kindergarten clear to third grade. And I know that you have because I see those teachers and those students at East Washington working on them. So we're going to start focusing on those words for you, fourth graders, which are those bigger words because we know that you can handle them. So let's look at the first word, beautiful. Notice that it just sounds like we're simply saying the U sound, but in this case, we have that B-E-A-U vowel combo that comes together to make beautiful. And so if you were working on this word today, you would say the word beautiful, you'll type it, you'll check to see if you've spelled it correctly, and then you'll type it again to make sure that you have spelled it correctly. If you spell it wrong the first time, no big deal. It's not a problem because you'll get to fix it again in the last column. And I know a lot of you have been asking about this idea of spelling. So these are just kind of the little spelling practices that we're going to do throughout this year. You will not be graded on them, but I do want to see that you are spelling them correctly by the last column. Let's look at the next vowel combination. The word is caught. Note that it has that ah sound because you should know by now that the A and the U make that ah sound for caught. Once again, on your phonics word study today that you'll be doing, you'll be saying the word caught, typing it, checking your spelling, and in the last column, definitely spelling it correctly. Let's look at the next word. Finally. Notice that we have two of the vowels in this one. We have the I sound, and we have the alley sound because we put it with those letters. Fine, ali. So notice we also have that syllables that we can divide that into to make sure that when we're spelling it and typing it out, we say finally. Notice that the E in fine is missing because we've combined it into a longer word of finally. So you will say the word, type the word, check your spelling, and then type it again correctly in the last column. Let's look at the next one. The next word is favorite. We'll say the word favorite. Notice that that E is silent on the end of it, but we still need to make sure to include it when we write it, or type it in your case. And so when we do favorite, you will say the word, type the word, check your spelling, and then definitely spell it correctly in the last column. Remember, if you type it wrong or you don't type it correctly in that first column, that's no worries. Those are just the words that you need to make sure that you kind of start studying on your own. Let's look at the word important. Notice that it also has the two vowels in it, the or and the ant. And so you will say the word important, important. So there's your 3 syllables. And then you will type the word, check your spelling, and then type it again correctly. Just a reminder, here are the steps that you will be following during your lesson this afternoon when you go out onto Schoology and you find those words. And I'll show you where we find it. You're going to use the list that I just showed you. For your written assignment, you're going to pick 10 words from that list. Remember, go for those longer 4th grade type of words, not the word like be and bad. Then you're going to type the word, check the word, and then type it again correctly. Let me show you what that looks like in Schoology. You're going to go to the link in Reading Schoology that says Friday's Reading Lesson. Notice that the directions are here if you forget. I will click on that link. And it will take me to an assignment that looks like this, Friday's reading assignment. I'm telling you to choose those 10 words from the list below. You're going to type the words in the Google Doc, and then you're going to check the words that you spelled correctly. If you come down here, the list of words will be right here where it says PWS letterboxes HFW1. So click on the PDF letterboxes. Notice that it gives you the directions, choosing 10 words, write the word, check the word, and then you're going to, instead of making letter boxes, you're going to just type it in the box at the end of that column that I'll show you in just a moment. Here are all of those high frequency words that you're going to have on this list, and you can pick whichever one that you want to. Remember, we don't want to go for these shorter ones. We want to go for the longer ones like we did here. Or if there's any of them that you know you struggle with to spell. There are several of them because there are 500 high frequency words. So notice you have all of these to go with. So feel free to choose over any of these pages that you would like. So you can leave that tab open, and then you're going into the Google Word doc that I have here. Make sure to click Make a Copy so we're not all working on the same one. Your document will look like this. Let's try that word, beautiful. I'm going to check my spelling. And when I look at it, I notice that I did not spell it correctly. So I'm going to put an X there. And now with that word beside me, I'm going to type the word beautiful. I'm going to do that for 9 more of my words. Notice I left that there wrong because it's okay to show we're not quite sure how to use that word, and we just used it as our normal phonics, which is beautiful. And so it's okay. I put an X there that I have that spelling wrong. Not a problem because I spelled it correctly here in this column, which was type the word correctly. All of that will be found in your Schoology assignment, your Google Doc, and the list of those high frequency words. Next, we're going to go into our reading mini lesson, which will finish off the rest of these directions that we'll come back to in just a minute. So now for our reading mini lesson today, we're going to think about what guidelines help make you be a good reader, and then what guidelines also help you to be a good writer where you're sharing your thoughts and your ideas to me. I really like in your writing that I'm starting to see longer descriptions. I'm loving seeing those home run sentences. Some of you are even doing an amazing job pulling in the evidence from the story to tell me, because remember, I'm not on Get Epic with you. I can see what book you're on, but I've not read all of the books that are in Get Epic. So by you telling me you're thinking of the reading and giving me a summary of what's happening in your story, I'm able to understand what you're reading better only because of the good descriptions you're giving me. If you're giving me short, choppy sentences, then you need to make sure to give me more details in there so that way I can better understand your reading. Some guidelines that we can follow are read a book and writing down your thoughts about your reading. That's what we've been putting in the WAR writing about reading Google documents that you've been sending me this week. Work silently so that you and your classmates can do their best work. I like that you're staying in your seats and wearing your mask when you do get up and move around because we need to work on keeping that social distancing. And staying quiet so that way everyone can focus, especially during reading time. Use a level 1 voice when conferring, which means conferencing or asking a teacher for help. Select the books that you think you're going to enjoy. Don't get stuck in a book that you just don't enjoy. Stop reading that book and go to one that you will. We're working on looking for chapter books instead of picture books because you're in 4th grade now. Remember, abandon that book that you do not enjoy. There's nothing worse being stuck in a book and thinking, I'm never going to get through this. It's okay to stop reading a book as long as you are reading some books all the way through. And then remember, next week when we start working on our new digital reader's notebook, you're going to start recording what books you're reading. That'll be pretty easy for you because in Get Epic, it lists what books you've already read. And so that way we'll be able to put them into our digital notebook next week. And then don't forget, always to do your best. While you're reading today, you're going to do 2 things for me. Number 1, I want you to think about what are the guidelines that you used for when you were reading and then writing about your reading. What are some of the strategies that you used? How did you make sure that you were being a good community member and helping your fellow classmates so that they can focus and they can read on their own? What you'll be doing today in your work time is thinking about those guidelines. I want you to write it for me as a list, kind of like that I've done here. Remember, we've also done lists where it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, or we have that little bulleted point, that little dot that comes in the middle that you could also add in there. Also, during your writing about reading time, I want you to think, is there anything else that we can add to our guidelines by creating them in yours? When you go back to that Schoology assignment for Friday's lesson, after you get finished sending that doc to me that you did earlier of the 10 words, the high frequency words that you corrected, I want you to then get on Epic and I want you to read for 20 minutes. The more we read, the better our vocabulary and the better that our stamina is, that when we're given a longer passage in iLearn, that we won't be affected by it because we're used to reading through that 20 minutes. After you get finished with that, I want you to open up your WAR document, Writing About Reading. And I want you to type me a list of those guidelines that you did during your independent reading time. If you would like to, go ahead and share with me what you were reading about today. You can put that in a paragraph again. And then share this document with me so that way over the weekend I can see what you've been typing. Don't forget, if you have any questions, make sure to ask Mrs. Hampton and she can help you through with this. Don't forget, focus and read during that 20 minutes. Make sure that if you're not on a chapter book, that you go ahead and get onto a chapter book. We need to move past those comic books and those picture books and become 4th grade readers. I'll see you back during writing time. Good luck on doing this work.